Chapter 338. Summon the Great Mountain Divine Seal. In the void above, the silhouette of Lin Fei manifested once again. That nebulous mist of blood never dissipated. Instead, it coalesced swiftly, forming Lin Fei. Witnessing this spectacle, over 100 golden core true persons gazed in sheer disbelief as if they couldn't fathom the truth. How can this be? He was clearly reduced to a blood mist by the Great Mountain Seal. How could he possibly remain unscathed? Transformed into a blood mist and yet able to reform, what sort of divine ability is this? Even the famed undying physique doesn't possess such terrifying regenerative prowess. For a moment, a profound shock gripped the hearts of all golden core true persons present. They had indeed seen the undying physique of martial sovereigns before. In fact, they'd witnessed its power on numerous occasions. However, even the mightiest of these undying physiques, at most, boasted formidable defense and rapid recovery. Never before had they seen a divine ability where one, having been reduced to mere mist, could be reborn in such a manner. Perhaps reborn wasn't the right word. After all, Lin Fei's saber domain and gravity domain remained intact, signifying that he had never truly perished to begin with. But how could he have survived the combined force of the Great Mountain Seals, summoned and driven by over 100 golden core true persons? A sense of hopelessness engulfed many of the golden core true persons. Their most potent weapon had failed. The numerous Great Mountain Seals had shattered. Bereft of the Great Mountain Seals, what other means did they possess to combat this threat? There, in the vast expanse, Lin Fei stood. He cast a cold gaze upon the multitude of golden core true persons ensnared within the formation. Indeed, moments ago, he had been reduced to a blood mist by the numerous Great Mountain Seals. Yet, he did not perish. The sensation was peculiar. All of this was due to the effect of his divine ability, the Undying Seal. The Undying Seal, a passive divine ability, is only triggered when one's life is endangered or one's body is gravely harmed. Having been reduced to what could aptly be termed utter annihilation, Lin Fei would certainly have met his demise had it been before. The combined might of over 100 golden core true persons and their myriad of magic treasures wasn't mere rhetoric, it was a terrifying force to be reckoned with. Choosing the undying physique as his fifth divine ability was a decision Lin Fei had made after considerable contemplation. It now seemed his choice was judicious. Battling a power like Tai Dao powerless, survival was paramount. After all, no one truly knew the depths of Tai Dao Palace's strength. Who would have imagined that Tai Dao Palace would suddenly bolster its ranks with so many golden core true persons? In the midst of the intense atmosphere, Lin Fei's voice resonated, cold and unwavering, signaling the unleashing of his divine abilities. Divine ability, Annihilation. Divine ability, Dual World Saber. Saber Domain, Tree Saber Merge, Strike. Lin Fei's gaze was chilling. The life will behind him emitted two distinct rays of luminescence, each signifying the release of top-tier great divine abilities. Added to that, the infinite saber banes from his saber domain surged toward the group of golden core true persons like a tsunami. A colossal explosion erupted. Despite the combined strength of the 100 golden core true persons, they found themselves outmatched by Lin Fei's overwhelming assault. The two divine abilities and the saber domain's onslaught clashed head-on with the formation. The formation, already compromised due to the destruction of the Great Mountain Seal and subsequent backlash, barely lasted 3 breaths before shattering. The ear-piercing shatter echoed. The formation, bolstered by the combined power of over 100 golden core true persons, crumbled instantaneously under the combined weight of the Annihilation, Dual World Saber, and the Saber Domain. This jarring event left each golden core true person physically and mentally shaken. A subtle tremor emanated from the first layer of Lin Fei's life wheel. The wind began to blow, but it wasn't any ordinary gust. This was the bone-eroding wind, capable of reducing flesh to mere bones in an instant. As this deathly wind swept over, terror painted the faces of the golden core true persons. Their flesh rapidly dissipated, revealing pale skeletons. Given their current vulnerable state, they'd only be able to withstand this wind for a few breaths. Beyond that, certain death awaited. Although they were nearing the end of their lifespans, few among them could face the reality of death with true equanimity. Inside Tai Dao Palace, all eyes were trained on the epic showdown between Lin Fei and the Golden Core True Persons. Every elder, disciple, and even the palace master knew the terrifying power of these 100 Golden Core True Persons. When they saw the great mountain seal transform Lin Fei into a mist of blood, relief and joy were evident on their faces. However, Lin Fei's resurrection and subsequent annihilation of the great mountain seal and the formation stunned them into fearful silence. Now, with the formation shattered, the lives of these Golden Core True Persons hung by a thread. Although these Golden Core True Persons were nearing their natural life's end, there was a stark difference between dying of natural causes and being slain by Lin Fei's hand. If Lin Fei managed to defeat over 100 Golden Core True Persons from Tai Dao Palace single-handedly, it would signify a catastrophic blow to the prestige and might of the Tai Dao Palace. Palace Master, we must find a solution. Call back the Golden Core True Persons from outside. How has Lin Fei become so formidable? Not even hundreds of Golden Core Masters can challenge him. Lin Fei possesses 5 top-tier great divine abilities. He also has the Saber Domain, which even reaches the level of Transcendence. A Saber Domain of Transcendence is almost equivalent to the power of 2, perhaps even 3 top-tier great divine abilities. By this calculation, Lin Fei can nearly match a martial sovereign with 7 or 8 top-tier great divine abilities. He's merely a step away from becoming a martial king. Many of the elders went silent. Perhaps some disciples are unaware of the significance of possessing 7 or 8 top-tier great divine abilities, but the elders are fully aware. For a typical martial sovereign, having 1 or 2 great divine abilities is already remarkable. If every one of their divine abilities is of the great variety, they certainly are on the path to becoming a martial king. Most of these individuals hail from martial king lineages, bearing the bloodline of a martial king and inheriting the divine abilities within that bloodline. This is how they might possess multiple great divine abilities. However, it's rare, almost unheard of, to have each one at the top-tier level. As for Lin Fei, every one of his abilities is top-tier. The distinction is monumental. Even the martial sovereigns from those esteemed martial king families would likely be overshadowed when faced with Lin Fei. It's not that the multitude of Golden Core True Persons are weak, it's simply that Lin Fei is overwhelmingly strong. His strength surpasses their wildest imaginations. They had initially discouraged the Palace Master from using the Great Mountain Divine Seal, thinking it might be an overreaction. But now, in hindsight, they realized their grave error. Only the Palace Master had the foresight to truly understand the threat Lin Fei posed from the beginning. Yet, even with that awareness, they couldn't fault Lin Fei when he was still in his nascent stages. Now, he has fully come into his own. The Palace Master remained silent, gazing quietly at the mountain entrance. What solutions can he possibly think of now? Every tactic and ounce of power at his disposal has been exhausted. He even went to the extent of summoning past generations of Golden Core True Persons. Yet, there was still no match for Lin Fei. The only strategy remaining is the final resort of Tai Dao Palace, its very essence and foundation. The Palace Master was hesitant to employ this unless absolutely necessary. But now, there's no choice. Summon the Great Mountain Divine Seal. In the following moment, the Palace Master presented his command token. Channeling his spiritual chi into it, a resonating hum filled the air, and the token illuminated brightly. Mysterious runes emerged from the token, ascending and embedding into the towering mountain peak above. With a deafening rumble, the towering mountain quaked vigorously, exuding an aura of ancientness, wilderness, and vastness. This ancient divine mountain is Tai Dao Palace's guardian treasure, the Great Mountain Divine Seal. Chapter 339. The Power of Great Mountain Divine Seal. The gates of Tai Dao Palace trembled violently. All the disciples and elders stared in horror at the towering, ancient divine mountain that reached the clouds. Their eyes widened in disbelief. Could that ancient divine mountain be the Great Mountain Divine Seal? It's unfathomable. We've been at Tai Dao Palace for so long, yet we had no idea that the Great Mountain Divine Seal was here all this time. It's said that the Great Mountain Divine Seal was crafted by the founding master from an ancient divine mountain. I thought it was a mere legend. Who would have believed it to be true? This ancient divine mountain seems to have always been within Tai Dao Palace. I never imagined it to be the Great Mountain Divine Seal. Many were taken aback. After all, this ancient divine mountain had been in Tai Dao Palace for ages. Not just the disciples, but most of the elders were also unaware. The Great Mountain Divine Seal hadn't been used for countless years. At the very least, it hadn't been invoked in millennia. It was only natural for the disciples and elders to be oblivious. However, the palace master was undoubtedly aware that the majestic mountain standing tall in the Tai Dao Palace was indeed the Great Mountain Divine Seal. With a thunderous roar, as the palace master invoked the Great Mountain Divine Seal with a command token, the ancient divine mountain tore from the earth. Whistling, it headed straight for the gates of Tai Dao Palace. Lin Fei abruptly raised his head. All at once, darkness enveloped the sky. It was the shadow of a mountain. Eclipsing the sun and sky, an imposing, mysterious, vast, and terrifying aura emanated. It was suffocating, and that aura instantly locked onto Lin Fei. He found himself trapped, with nowhere to run. Great Mountain Divine Seal. Lin Fei's eyes narrowed ever so slightly. He had deduced it instantly. It had to be the Great Mountain Divine Seal. Although it bore the semblance of a mountain peak, one could discern its true nature when sensed with intuition. It was a magic treasure, and it far surpassed the caliber of a golden core treasure. It was a nascent soul magical treasure. While a nascent soul magical treasure didn't represent a true nascent soul, such a treasure could easily obliterate any golden core cultivator. Overpower any martial sovereign. Such overwhelming and crushing power, it was incomparably formidable. Gravity domain. Annihilation. Without a moment's hesitation, the life wheel on Lin Fei's back shone brightly from its second and fourth layers. Two top-tier great divine abilities erupted simultaneously. As gravity intensified, given the massive size of the ancient divine mountain, the force was immensely daunting. Yet, the ancient divine mountain continued its descent towards Lin Fei. Without a hint of deceleration, it remained steady. This meant Lin Fei's gravity domain hadn't affected the ancient divine mountain in the slightest. Even the power of the annihilation divine ability, when unleashed upon the ancient divine mountain, proved futile. There wasn't even a slight tremor. Such was the power of the Great Mountain Divine Seal. Simultaneously, the Great Mountain Divine Seal finally descended upon Lin Fei's saber domain. With a soft crunch, Lin Fei's saber domain shattered almost instantly. For the first time, Lin Fei's saber domain was broken. Ever since he had developed the saber domain, it had been unbeaten. But now, it was violently smashed open by the Great Mountain Divine Seal. Once the saber domain was crushed by the Great Mountain Divine Seal, Lin Fei was momentarily rendered unable to utilize it. Thus, even if he wished to use the saber domain for teleportation, he was powerless. Such is the prowess of the nascent soul magic treasure. It remained dormant until it struck with earth-shattering force, leaving no escape. Sovereign Lin. Is that the Great Mountain Divine Seal? How terrifying! This is truly the backbone of Tai Dao Palace. Great Mountain Divine Seal, a nascent soul magic treasure, is invincible. The numerous martial sovereigns of the ancient origin sect, upon witnessing the terrifying might of the ancient divine mountain, felt despair sinking into their hearts. Before witnessing the Great Mountain Divine Seal and experiencing the nascent soul magic treasure firsthand, they could speak confidently. However, when they did see and feel its terror, they realized how horrifying the nascent soul magic treasure truly was. It wasn't something a martial sovereign or a golden core could contend with. Seemingly, no force or divine ability could withstand it. With a deafening boom, the Great Mountain Divine Seal finally descended, instantaneously pressing down on Lin Fei. And Lin Fei's body was instantly crushed into dust by the Great Mountain Divine Seal. If the Great Mountain Seal could turn Lin Fei into dust, the Great Mountain Divine Seal would naturally fare even better. Yet, Tai Dao Palace still chose to deploy the Great Mountain Divine Seal because of its unique power that the Golden Core Magic Treasure didn't possess. Perhaps it could shadow Lin Fei's undying physique. After all, in this world, there's no such thing as a truly undying physique. It's bound to have flaws. The Great Mountain Seal failed to eradicate Lin Fei solely due to its insufficient power. But the strength of the Great Mountain Divine Seal, being a nascent soul magic treasure, greatly exceeded the former. It was the source of the Palace Master's hopes. This time, as the Great Mountain Divine Seal descended, Lin Fei was crushed to dust. Not even a mist of blood remained. He seemed to have vanished completely. However, in the next instant, a figure emerged from the void. It was Lin Fei. His figure reappeared, seemingly unscathed. A nascent soul magic treasure is only this strong. A glint of something unusual flashed across Lin Fei's eyes. Within Tai Dao Palace, the thing he dreaded most was this Great Mountain Divine Seal. After all, being a nascent soul magic treasure, no one truly knew the extent of its terrifying power. But just now, as Lin Fei was pressed down by the Great Mountain Divine Seal, it was undeniably powerful. Lin Fei's physical body was crushed without resistance, reduced to mere dust. This was even more thorough than the Great Mountain Seal, with not even a mist of blood remaining, and to the naked eye, no trace of Lin Fei's body could be found. However, Lin Fei was ultimately not dead. This was because even the Great Mountain Divine Seal could not grind the particles of his body into dust. These particles were invisible to the naked eye. Lin Fei's undying seal was present in every single particle of his body. As long as these particles persisted, Lin Fei would not die. The power of the Great Mountain Divine Seal seemingly could not reach this particle level. So, even if Lin Fei was turned to dust hundreds of times, it would have no substantial effect on him. What's more, the one controlling it was merely a golden core cultivator. Hence, Lin Fei naturally revived. Suddenly, the Great Mountain Divine Seal descended once more, and just like before, Lin Fei's body disintegrated into dust. But the next moment, a Tao-shaped magic treasure fiercely flew out from within Tai Dao Palace. True Fire Tower, refine. The voice of Tai Dao Palace Master rang out. This was a magic treasure specifically meant for suppression and sealing. Although it was of the golden core tier, once something was trapped within the True Fire Tower, it would immediately be refined by the true fire inside. The flames within the tower weren't ordinary flames but true fire, the kind used specifically for refining tools and pells. It could melt almost anything. The Tai Dao Palace Master's eye was incredibly sharp. He immediately identified Lin Fei's weakness. Lin Fei could not resist the Great Mountain Divine Seal, given its nascent soul magic treasure status. But the Great Mountain Divine Seal also couldn't kill Lin Fei outright. Lin Fei's undying physique was indeed formidable. But the strategy seemed clear now: use the Great Mountain Divine Seal to crush Lin Fei into dust, then employ the True Fire Tower to suppress and refine him with its fire. This true fire could melt everything. He refused to believe that he couldn't refine Lin Fei to death. As a result, inside the True Fire Tower, the flames roared and blazed, engulfing the entire area where Lin Fei was, frantically refining him. Chapter 340. Concession. Inside the True Fire Tower, Lin Fei did not manifest physically. However, his consciousness persisted. The true fire inside the tower burned ferociously. It was indeed formidable, capable of turning even top-tier martial sovereigns into ashes. Once enveloped by the true fire, death was almost certain. Yet, Lin Fei's undying seal remained unaffected. This seal had penetrated down to the particle level. Thus, even the scorching flames couldn't harm these particles. As long as the particle level remained undamaged, nobody could kill Lin Fei. Neither the True Fire nor the Great Mountain Divine Seal can touch the particle level, Lin Fei mused. Perhaps only a true martial king or a nascent soul great being can touch that level, maybe even annihilate the particles entirely. Lin Fei felt enlightened. He realized that his self-created fifth divine ability, the Undying Seal, might have touched upon powers akin to those at the nascent soul or martial king levels to some extent. Particle level. Perhaps that's where the power of a nascent soul great being or a martial king truly reached. Even though Lin Fei didn't have a physical form and remained in a particle state, invisible to the naked eye, this didn't prevent him from wielding his saber domain or his divine abilities. Therefore, breaking out of the true fire tower was not a difficult task for him. In the next moment, Lin Fei's saber domain erupted with explosive force. Simultaneously, a force of annihilation also burst forth from within the tower. Divine ability, annihilation, he declared. The internal explosion of the annihilation divine ability impacted the tower severely. The top-tier golden core level magic treasure, the true fire tower, started showing cracks all over its surface. What is this? Everyone watched in shock. The appearance of these cracks meant only one thing: the true fire tower couldn't trap Lin Fei. In the next heartbeat, the tower shattered. Fragments scattered in all directions, blanketing the sky. The true fire tower was destroyed. Lin Fei's silhouette once again appeared, standing dominantly in the void, hands behind his back, overlooking Tai Dao Palace. A solemn silence descended upon the palace. The palace master remained silent, refraining from any further action. Despite having the Great Mountain Divine Seal to crush Lin Fei into dust, what was the point? All true persons, return. Tai Dao Palace suddenly commanded the hundreds of golden core true persons outside. Perhaps the only use of the Great Mountain Divine Seal was to prevent Lin Fei from slaying these true persons. But in the grand scheme of things, it was inconsequential. Sooner or later, these golden core true persons would meet their end. Whether Lin Fei was the one to end them or not didn't matter. With a whoosh, hundreds of golden core true persons swiftly returned to the Tai Dao Palace. They remained silent, their expression somber. Such a vast and reputable Tai Dao Palace was now unable to deal with just one martial sovereign. This was nothing short of humiliating. Even after employing their most potent artifact, the Great Mountain Divine Seal, they still couldn't vanquish Lin Fei. It was an undeniable fact: they could not kill Lin Fei. Once all the golden core true persons had returned, the Tai Dao Palace master withdrew the Great Mountain Divine Seal. His gaze met Lin Fei's in the void. After a long moment, he finally spoke: "Sovereign Lin, we of Tai Dao Palace admit that we cannot defeat you. However, you cannot overcome the protective formation of our palace either. If you don't believe me, you're welcome to try." The palace master was wise. He knew why Lin Fei had come. Lin Fei probably had the same intentions as he had with the profound light cave heaven, wanting to decimate the Tai Dao Palace. But this wouldn't be an easy feat. The Tai Dao Palace wasn't like the profound light cave heaven. "I will indeed try," Lin Fei declared, standing amidst the void. Behind him, a life will manifested, displaying 5 layers of radiant light. At this moment, 3 of those layers shone brilliantly. Divine ability, gravity domain. Divine ability, dual world saber. Divine ability, annihilation. All 3 divine abilities were offensive ones, each fearsomely powerful and unique in its own way. Instantly, the trio of top-tier great divine abilities erupted with an overwhelming might. This wasn't all, there was also the saber domain, which condensed into a formidable saber, cleaving violently towards the gates of Tai Dao Palace. A deafening rumble echoed. Tai Dao Palace's protective formation emitted a blinding light, shaking violently like never before, even causing the entire palace gates to quiver. "Great Divine Mountain, return to your place." The palace master chanted calmly, activating a seal. The Great Mountain Divine Seal swiftly returned to its initial position. Once the seal was back in place, the intense tremors at the palace gates began to subside quickly. In the end, the protective formation stood unbreakable. Even with Lin Fei's 3 great divine abilities combined with the saber domain, he couldn't shake the protective formation of the Tai Dao Palace. Lin Fei refrained from making another move, his gaze fixed intently on the Great Mountain Divine Seal within the Tai Dao Palace. The Great Mountain Divine Seal was originally an ancient divine mountain and likely served as the central nexus or the heart of the Tai Dao Palace's protective formation. With the Great Mountain Divine Seal anchoring the formation, one could only hope to break through the formation if they managed to destroy the seal. However, with Lin Fei's current strength, he couldn't budge the Great Mountain Divine Seal at all. This was expected. If the Tai Dao Palace was so easily breached, it wouldn't be the pinnacle of the nascent soul lineage. Seeing that Lin Fei couldn't breach the formation, the palace master slowly said, "Sovereign Lin, it must be clear to you now that you cannot break through our formation." "True, I cannot break the formation," Lin Fei responded, "but I can stand guard outside and slay anyone who attempts to leave the Tai Dao Powers." This declaration sent shockwaves through everyone in the Tai Dao Powers. Lin Fei's intention was evident. He was in for a long haul, ready to engage in a battle of attrition. "Sovereign Lin, why resort to such extremes?" the palace master reasoned. "If you blockade our entrances, you'd also be trapping yourself here. Your potential far surpasses any of ours. You might even have the chance to become a martial king. Wasting time here could cost you that opportunity. We, the Tai Dao Palace, admit to fate. We vow never to provoke members of the Ancient Origin sect or the Red Hades Mansion." How does that sound? In truth, both Lin Fei and him realized this was the best possible outcome, restoring the previous standoff between the three major powers. However, this time Lin Fei had the upper hand. Let there not be a next time. If you dare act against us again, Tai Dao Palace, ensure you are fully prepared. If we truly drag this out, even if all of you perish, I will remain standing, Lin Fei coldly declared. With that, he took a step and, along with the martial sovereigns of the Ancient Origin sect, swiftly left the entrance of the Tai Dao Palace. Inside the palace, everyone exchanged uneasy glances. "Palace Master, what now?" Many were at a loss for words. "Did you all hear?" the Palace Master began. "The next time we act, we must be fully prepared. Unless we can have a nascent soul great being intervene, Tai Dao Palace should remain still." The idea of a nascent soul great being was almost a legend. Invoking such a power would be tremendously difficult for the Tai Dao Palace. Conversely, Lin Fei's potential seemed boundless. If he were to achieve the rank of martial king, the Tai Dao Palace would be in grave danger. However, the palace master had a plan. While the palace might not have a nascent soul great being of its own, it could potentially seek one out. Although recruiting such a figure would be a monumental challenge, it wasn't entirely hopeless. If they could secure the assistance of a nascent soul great being, they might stand a chance against Lin Fei. Both Lin Fei and the Tai Dao Palace Master understood a stark reality: their paths would likely cross again in a grand confrontation. And when that day arrives, one side will undoubtedly be obliterated. Chapter 341. The Direction of the Sixth Divine Ability. Lin Fei, Ancient Origin Sect Master, when Sovereign and all the other martial sovereigns had returned to the Ancient Origin Sect. In the Grand Hall, the leader of the Ancient Origin Sect laughed and said, "Sovereign Lin, with our journey to Tai Dao Palace this time, we can finally rest easy. Indeed, as long as Sovereign Lin is with us, Tai Dao Palace will not dare to make a move against our Ancient Origin Sect. We have at least 1,000 years of pace." All the sovereigns appeared elated. With Lin Fei around, the Ancient Origin Sect was guaranteed a millennium of prosperity. 1,000 years. Lin Fei shook his head. Maybe tomorrow, maybe a few years, but definitely not 1,000. They will make their move. A martial sovereign frowned. Tai Dao Palace can't defeat you. How would they dare? They may not take action, but they could hire someone who will. If Tai Dao Palace brings in a nascent soul cultivator, do you still believe we can rest easy? Lin Fei's words changed the expressions of all the martial sovereigns. Summon a nascent soul cultivator. Is that even possible? Many doubted. If it were that easy, Tai Dao Palace would have done it long ago. But what if they did? "Sovereign Lin, what should we do?" When Sovereign asked, all eyes were now on Lin Fei. He was the core of the Ancient Origin Sect. It's simple. I will become the martial king. Then all problems will be solved. The room went silent. They knew Lin Fei was powerful, but he had only mastered 5 of the divine abilities. To become a martial king, he had to merge all 9. Only then could he possibly attain the martial king's bloodline and status. However, if anyone from the ancient origin sect had a chance, it was Lin Fei. Lin Fei left the hall, giving a reminder to the sect's sovereigns to stay vigilant. He returned to his dwelling, knowing Tai Dao Palace wouldn't let it go, but also confident they wouldn't act soon without being sure of victory. He was also aware that only by becoming a martial king could he eliminate the threat of Tai Dao Palace for good. But it wasn't going to be easy. He had just mastered 5 of the divine abilities. There were 4 more to go. Lin Fei had time, but Great Chan might not be able to wait that long. Some martial sovereigns in Golden Court, true persons from the ancient continent, had already set out for Great Chan. He wondered what had become of it. Lin Fei knew he had to rush back to Great Chan soon. First, I should visit the martial arts tower and create a top-notch great divine ability as my 6th divine ability. Lin Fei didn't dwell on how long it would take to return to Great Chan this time. The stronger his power, the better. Thus, Lin Fei ventured to the 4th floor of the martial arts tower. The 4th floor was entirely dedicated to divine abilities. Lin Fei had grown adept at creating divine abilities. However, now he needed to choose a direction. For his 6th divine ability, what kind of power did he need? For the 5th divine ability, Lin Fei had chosen the path of immortality to counter the threat from Tai Dao Palace, resulting in the creation of the top-tier Undying Seal great divine ability. Even a nascent soul magic treasure could not kill him. Undoubtedly, the 5th divine ability was a resounding success. Therefore, Lin Fei had even higher expectations for the 6th divine ability. Lin Fei pondered the divine abilities he currently possessed: Black Wind Prison, Gravity Domain, Dual World Saber, Annihilation, and Undying Seal, total in 5. Among them, the Gravity Domain, similar to the Saber Domain, was a restrictive divine ability, mainly used to suppress the opponent's power. Undying Seal was defensive, giving the user a type of immortality. Black Wind Prison was an expansive attack against life. Both Dual World Saber and Annihilation divine ability were powerful and direct attack abilities. These 5 divine abilities were comprehensive, leaving no glaring weaknesses. But in certain areas, there were still vulnerabilities. For instance, he didn't possess a straightforward defensive divine ability. Even the Undying Seal, with its immortality trait, wasn't genuinely defensive. Another issue was the absence of a decisive, all-ending ability. If he didn't have a powerful enough direct defense divine ability, the Great Mountain Divine Seal could crush him. What if he couldn't break a more potent seal like the True Fire Tower? While it couldn't kill him, being sealed or trapped was almost as bad. So, Lin Fei concluded, I need a divine ability that is definitive. One that can break any seal. Even if I'm trapped, I should be able to break the confinement of any magic treasure. Lin Fei knew that finding such a divine ability would be a challenging endeavor. Perhaps even if he scoured all the divine ability scriptures in the ancient origin sect's martial arts tower, he might not have found the ability he sought. However, he had the option to create his own. To create something wasn't to conjure it out of thin air. Lin Fei couldn't magically invent a divine ability. But after his previous 2 endeavors in creating divine abilities, he had garnered some personal experience and even had a few ideas. This was an ideal opportunity to experiment. Even if he failed, it wouldn't impact him in any way. Firstly, Lin Fei needed to have a clear idea or vision. He had to be precise about what kind of divine ability he needed. Not just a vague concept. He closed his eyes, thinking of the True Fire Tower. This magic treasure was a prime example of a sealing-type magic treasure. Even other more potent magic treasures, stronger than the True Fire Tower, were primarily more robust in their sealing ability and harder to damage. But if he had a divine ability that could shatter anything, no sealing magic treasure could hold him. Sharp, invincible, capable of breaking through everything. In his mind, Lin Fei's concept of the divine ability he needed became clearer and more refined. Suddenly, there was a jolt in his mind. He envisioned a divine ability that perfectly aligned with his idea. However, what he imagined looked more like a needle or a needle-shaped magic treasure. But Lin Fei was looking to cultivate a divine ability, not create a magic treasure. Chapter 342. Pierce. Martial Sovereign didn't possess any magic treasures, and certainly none that were sharp, invincible, and capable of breaking through everything. Why did these qualities align with a needle-shaped magic treasure? Lin Fei was keen on cultivating a new divine ability, not a treasure. So, were there any divine abilities that met these criteria? He started his search in the divine ability scriptures. It didn't have to be a perfect match, just something that had the characteristics he was looking for. After some searching, he found a divine ability called Splitting Lightsaber. It could cultivate a saber aura named Splitting Light Aura. The essence of this ability was its speed, so swift that it was almost unpredictable. But what Lin Fei was truly interested in was a minor trait of this ability, penetrating. The penetrating of the Splitting Light Aura was just an ancillary trait. The primary focus of the divine ability was its elusive speed. Ironically, Lin Fei wasn't as interested in the speed but was captivated by its ability to penetrate everything. Lin Fei also came across another divine ability named Astonishing Swan Finger. This technique was as fast as a startled swan and was labeled as a lesser divine ability. However, its power was formidable, and its key characteristic was, once again, penetrating. If one couldn't dodge, they'd likely be pierced through. Both abilities had similar traits to some extent. Lin Fei thought, I'll use the Splitting Lightsaber as a foundation and merge it with the Astonishing Swan Finger. I hope that by combining these, the penetrating traits of both will enhance the resulting divine abilities trait and make it truly unparalleled. With that in mind, he began the process of merging the two divine abilities. The energies hummed. Lin Fei had given careful instructions, hoping that both abilities would merge with a focus on their penetrating. This was a directed fusion, something he hadn't attempted before. He was unsure if it would work. However, as time passed, there were no signs of resistance between the two abilities. Instead, they seemed to harmonize, gradually merging into one. After an unknown period, Lin Fei noticed a significant surge in the brightness of the fused abilities. It meant the fusion had concluded. Upon closer inspection, Lin Fei realized that the new divine ability was still a saber technique. But its characteristics had shifted from mere speed to an incredible sharpness, invincibility, and the ability to shatter anything. Joy surged in Lin Fei's heart. He had succeeded in his directed fusion experiment. This success marked the first step in a new direction. Having taken that step, Lin Fei was eager to continue exploring this newfound potential. So, Lin Fei continued to merge with the divine ability. The third, fourth, fifth. Gradually, Lin Fei began to identify some issues. Divine abilities that were truly penetrating or possessed razor-sharp characteristics to penetrate anything were exceptionally rare. Even as secondary effects, such divine abilities were scarcely found. And due to these being directional divine abilities, the trait of penetrating within each was not particularly strong. Thus, despite combining one divine ability after another, they still did not metamorphose into a great divine ability. 10s, 20s, 30s, 40s. Lin Fei searched nearly all of the ancient origin sect's divine abilities. Finally, after merging the 43rd divine ability, it reached its limit. Gazing upon this newly formed pinnacle of great divine ability, Lin Fei felt uncertain. He needed to test it personally to truly understand if it was the penetrator divine ability he sought and to what extent. Return to me, become my divine ability, he whispered. Awaiting the day I awakened the martial kin lineage. Where blood persists, the divine ability endures. With a swift whoosh, as Lin Fei's words settled, the radiant new divine ability was absorbed into his body. A powerful boom resonated, and Lin Fei shuddered. Behind him, a vast life wheel emerged. On the life wheel, the sixth layer shone with a dazzling light. 6 layers of luminescence signified 6 merged divine abilities. Concurrently, a fragment of memory appeared in Lin Fei's mind. It pertained to the 6th divine ability, named Pierce. A simple title, yet its function was far from elementary. According to Lin Fei's recollections about the Pierce divine ability, once executed, it released a force capable of breaching almost any barrier, penetrating anything. Without hesitation, Lin Fei lifted his hand. In an instant, it was pierced right through by the power of the pierce and hindered and effortlessly. This wasn't the aura of a sword or a saber, but an otherworldly force that could penetrate all. Even Lin Fei's palm could not resist. However, he noticed that the pierced divine ability couldn't completely breach his undying seal. Meaning, the pierced divine ability did not touch the particle-level force. Great Mountain Seal. Lin Fei exclaimed, summoning the seal. He had taken numerous Great Mountain Seals from the Golden Core true persons of Tai Dao Palace. All were of the Golden Core caliber magic treasures. At the very least, the defense was impeccable. After all, the Great Mountain Seal was a magic treasure suitable for both offense and defense. Divine ability, pierce. Instantly, the sixth layer of light from Lin Fei's back shone brilliantly. With a swift swish, a fleeting beam of light appeared, the power of pierce. It manifested as a ray of light, its size adjustable. In an instant, it reached the Great Mountain Seal. Without any resistance, the seal was directly pierced through. Immediately, the luminescence of the Great Mountain Seal dimmed. Even a magic treasure at the Golden Core level would be virtually rendered useless once pierced. Watching this, Lin Fei's eyes couldn't help but narrow slightly. This pierced divine ability seemed even more formidable than he had initially imagined. And the power of pierce wasn't just about breaking free. Once something was pierced, it was essentially ruined. Moreover, if it could penetrate a magic treasure, could it also breach spell formations? System, Lin Fei thought without hesitation, promptly accessing the system panel to inspect the status of his divine ability. Host, Lin Fei. Martial Realm, Mid-Stage Martial Sovereign. Great Divine Ability, Black Wind Prison, Perfection. Great Divine Ability, Gravity Domain, Perfection. Great Divine Ability, Dual World Saber, Perfection. Great Divine Ability, Annihilation, Perfection. Great Divine Ability, Undying Seal, Perfection. Great Divine Ability, Pierce, Beginner, Progress 5%. Saber Domain, Transcendence, Progress 5%. Lin Fei's sixth divine ability was, as expected, at the beginner stage. However, its cultivation progress was already at 5%. Just moments ago, when Lin Fei employed the pierced divine ability, he had merely pierced his own palm and the Golden Core magic treasure, the Great Mountain Seal. Could it be that by using the pierced divine ability to penetrate magic treasures or other objects, I can enhance the cultivation progress? Lin Fei surmised that this might indeed be the case. If so, mastering the pierced divine ability to perfection wouldn't seem too challenging. I wonder if the fully realized pierced divine ability can breach the Great Mountain Divine Seal. Lin Fei pondered a possibility. If he could penetrate the Great Mountain Divine Seal, then, undoubtedly, he could break the protective array of the Tai Dao Palace. Once deprived of the Great Mountain Divine Seal and the sect formation, Lin Fei could effortlessly obliterate the entire Tai Dao Palace. However, without absolute confidence, he wouldn't recklessly confront the Tai Dao Palace. The sixth divine ability has reached the beginner stage, he reflected. But to perfect it, more time is needed. It might be the right time to return to Great Chan. Lin Fei had made up his mind. Chapter 343. Arrival in Great Chan. Across the vast ocean, Lin Fei and Shen Lianxin walked upon the waters. By now, Shen Lianxin had developed a saber momentum and had also condensed an energy flower. In fact, he was not far from forming a chi flower. This was, of course, with Lin Fei's assistance. While Lin Fei couldn't assist in other matters, helping Shen Lianxin form his energy flower and chi flower posed no problem, requiring just a consumption of resources. Given Lin Fei's current stature, such resources were trivial. Thus, even if Shen Lianxin was only a martial sate, walking across the sea alongside Lin Fei was not a big deal. The duo had journeyed over the ocean for a long time, and according to their maritime chart, they weren't far from Great Chan. Suddenly, an exotic beast roared, lunging out of the water with its gaping jaws aiming for Lin Fei and Shen Lianxin. But in the next moment, the beast crashed heavily back into the sea, its massive body immobilized, crashed into pieces. Lin Fei used his gravity domain. How could a mere foundational tier exotic beast counter Lin Fei's divine ability? Throughout their journey, countless such beasts had been slain by Lin Fei, seemingly endless in numbers. "We are here," Shen Lianxin exclaimed. Lin Fei also noticed. For ahead, there was a long coastline. Great Chan. They had finally returned to Great Chan. But as they set foot on land, they found it eerily deserted. Dead. Everyone here is dead. Lin Fei instantly recognized that many people had once lived here, but now all were gone. Even the bloodstains on the ground hadn't dried yet. "We don't need to investigate what happened," Lin Fei said calmly. "We'll go directly to the 9 Profound Sect. Everything will become clear." He had a vague suspicion that this had something to do with the martial sovereigns and golden core true persons from the ancient continent. They would understand everything once they reached the 9 Profound Sect. With a swift motion, the two transformed into a beam of light, flying toward the 9 Profound Sect. "This is the place, right?" The 9 Profound Sect, a voice outside the sect's gate spoke. "The kingdom called Great Chan has honored the 9 Profound Sect's martial sage as the national guardian martial sage, arguably the premier martial sage of this continent. We traveled a vast distance, daringly crossing the seas from the ancient continent, all for the treasures of this land. But where the treasure lies, no one knows. Even after searching almost every inch of this continent, we found nothing. However, some things don't just emerge without reason. There must be treasures here, they are just hard to find. Perhaps the martial sage, who stands at the pinnacle of martial arts in this land, might have clues about the treasures." Outside the gates of the 9 Profound Sect stood 3 warriors, hovering in the void. They weren't martial saints but martial sovereigns. The 3 didn't radiate any life-will energy, but just their very presence made it hard to breathe. At this moment, the 9 Profound Sect went on high alert. These 3 seemed to have ill intentions. "Let the country's guardian martial sage, Lin Fei, come out and see us." One of the martial sovereigns shouted at the people of the 9 Profound Sect below. His voice echoed in the void, ringing in everyone's ears. The head of the 9 Profound Sect changed his expression slightly. He knew Lin Fei had left Great Chan. He had left the 9 Profound Sect. Now to let Lin Fei come out, how can he come out? But these 3 martial artists could walk on air, at least they were all martial saints. Moreover, the vitality they emitted was beyond that of a mere martial sage. Everyone in the 9 Profound Sect knew that many powerful beings beyond the martial sage level, called martial sovereigns, had suddenly appeared in Great Chan. They are said to surpass martial sages. Coming across the sea, it seemed they were looking for something. The head of the 9 Profound Sect took a deep breath and said loudly, "Martial sage Lin is in retreat and cannot come out to see you. I hope the seniors will forgive us." The martial sovereign's face darkened. He said coldly, "You have the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. Think carefully about whether Lin Fei will come out or not. If he doesn't, there's no need for the 9 Profound Sect to exist." The 3 martial sovereigns stood with their hands behind their backs. Their tone was very domineering. They even threatened to destroy the 9 Profound Sect. For a moment, the face of everyone in the 9 Profound Sect changed. Even if they wanted Lin Fei to come out, where was Lin Fei now? As for fighting to the death, the head of the 9 Profound Sect had not thought about it. Currently, in Great Chan, there is only one martial sage. That was Sword Sage Liu Yibai. However, Liu Yibai's hidden sword sect had been destroyed. It couldn't withstand a casual blow from a martial sovereign. The gap was unimaginable. The martial sovereign in front of them wasn't just talking big. The 9 Profound Sect could be destroyed by them at any moment. So, the head of the 9 Profound Sect had to say, "Seniors, Martial Sage Lin has gone out to sea to seek the Tao. He is not in the 9 Profound Sect right now." Gone out to sea to seek the Tao. A mere martial sage dares to go out to sea. Isn't he afraid of being buried in the ocean? The 3 martial sovereigns were a bit surprised. They had crossed the sea and knew how dangerous it was in the sea. For a martial sage to cross the sea, how lucky would one have to be not to be eaten by a sea beast? Even a martial sovereign could be swallowed by a sea beast. let alone a martial saint. However, the three martial sovereigns were more interested in the treasure than Lin Fei. So, one of the martial sovereigns continued, whether Lin Fei is here or not. Tell us, how much do you know about the treasure of Great Chan? The treasure of Great Chan. The head of the Nine Profound sect felt a chill in his heart. Recently, those who came across the sea seemed to be looking for something. It seemed to be a treasure. But what kind of treasure could Great Chan have? The Nine Profound sect had been established for quite some time. There was not even a hint of news about the treasure. Suddenly, a cold voice emanated from the void. Are you looking for me? Chapter 344. Sekul. The three martial sovereigns were taken aback, instantly turning to gaze at the distant figures. From the void, two silhouettes gradually emerged, stepping slowly towards the scene. Witnessing this, the head of the Nine Profound sect widened his eyes, seemingly in disbelief. Elder Lin. Yes, it's Lin Fei, the leader of the Nine Profound sect reaffirmed. Has Lin Fei returned? Lin Fei had set out on a journey across the sea in search of enlightenment. It had only been a mere 2 years since he left. Returning so soon, wasn't he just asking for trouble? Even if Lin Fei had grown stronger over these 2 years, he would, at best, still be a martial saint. With the emergence of so many martial sovereigns in Great Chan, how could a mere martial saint, no matter how powerful, pose any threat? However, Lin Fei and Shen Lianqin had indeed returned. A glint of surprise flashed in the eyes of the three martial sovereigns. Are you Lin Fei, the National Guardian Martial Saint of the Great Chan dynasty? National Guardian. Martial Saint. Lin Fei murmured, a title he had not heard in a long time. Every time he heard it, he was reminded of a woman, one who chose power over passion, worldly pursuits over the martial path, and ascended to rule as an empress. We planning on destroying the Nine Profound sect? Lin Fei asked the three martial sovereigns, ignoring their question. What if we were? If you hadn't shown up, we would have leveled the Nine Profound sect. How could mere martial saints like you fathom the true power of the martial path? We are martial sovereigns. Even in the ancient continent, the status of a martial sovereign is revered. Why would we care about a minor sect or a mere martial saint? Lin Fei, as the apex martial artist of Great Chan, you must be aware of its secrets. Tell us, where is the treasure of Great Chan? The three martial sovereigns demanded, their gaze as sharp as blades, locking onto Lin Fei. You shouldn't have come to Great Chan, Lin Fei calmly retorted. Whether Great Chan harbors any treasures, I do not know. But one thing's for certain, it will be your graveyard. The martial sovereigns were taken aback. Killing intent? Against us? Do you not understand the difference between a martial saint and a martial sovereign? They laughed at the perceived absurdity of Lin Fei's bravado. However, their laughter froze when Lin Fei took a step forward. An immense life wheel, unparalleled in its magnitude, manifested behind him. The oppressive aura it exuded made even the three martial sovereigns tremble. Their life wheels, in comparison to Lin Fei's, seemed insignificant. Lin Fei's life wheel shone brightly like the sun, while theirs merely flickered like fireflies. The triumphant smiles on the faces of the three martial sovereigns vanished. They could no longer find their voice to mock. With every step Lin Fei took, it felt as though he was stepping directly into their hearts, making the three of them shudder with unease. 6 layers of radiance, 6 divine abilities. And this life force pressure, it's terrifying beyond belief. 6 divine ability. It's clearly all great divine abilities, possibly even top-tier great divine abilities. How is it that in Great Chan, where the martial arts have declined, such a formidable warrior exists? This can't be. It's impossible. For a moment, the three martial sovereigns were in complete shock, hardly able to believe their own eyes. Even if Lin Fei had journeyed outside to seek the Tao, it had only been 2 years. What can a martial saint achieve in just 2 years? To become a martial sovereign in such a short time was a tale too fantastical to believe. Who exactly are you? Who are you to impersonate the martial saint of Great Chan? If you're after the treasures, we are willing to hand them over without a fight. The three martial sovereigns were no longer able to maintain their composure. Divine ability, gravity domain. The next moment, a second layer of radiance from the life will behind Lin Fei shone brilliantly. Attack. Feeling a jolt, the three martial sovereigns realized Lin Fei was about to make his move. They unleashed their powers without hesitation, simultaneously activating their divine abilities. Combined, they possessed a total of 8 divine abilities, which they used all at once, undoubtedly releasing an earth-shattering force. However, as soon as Lin Fei's gravity domain was activated, a series of loud bangs resounded. The three martial sovereigns, without even having a chance to scream, were instantly crushed by the overwhelming gravitational force, exploding into a cloud of blood mist. Dead. The three martial sovereigns had been killed without warning. Lin Fei hardly had to lift a finger. He had merely taken a few steps closer to the martial sovereigns, and as a result, they exploded into a mist of blood. To Lin Fei, these three martial sovereigns were inconsequential. Their powers were of the lesser divine ability, and even their realms were inferior to Lin Fei's. Their level was merely in the early stages of martial sovereign, while Lin Fei was in the mid-stage of martial sovereign. Not to mention, Lin Fei's gravity domain was a top-tier great divine ability that had reached perfection. These low-level martial sovereigns, practicing lesser divine abilities, stood no chance against him. In Lin Fei's presence, the idea of them even retaliating was a luxury. They were utterly crushed in an instant by Lin Fei. Master, sect leader. I've returned. Step by step, Lin Fei approached the entrance of the 9 profound sect and spoke slowly to his master, Zhao Kunming, and the sect leader. It really is Lin Fei. Zhao Kunming was overwhelmed with emotion. He glanced at Shen Lianxin, now completely certain that Lin Fei had indeed returned. Although he was astounded by Lin Fei's unimaginable growth in just 2 years, no matter how Lin Fei changed, he would always be a part of the 9 profound sect. This was indeed their good fortune. Consequently, both the sect leader and Zhao Kunming welcomed Lin Fei into the main hall. Master, what's the current situation in Great Shan? How is Liu Bai? What about the Empress of Great Shan? And my family? Lin Fei bombarded them with questions. The sect leader and Zhao Kunming exchanged glances, and finally, Zhao Kunming sighed deeply. Lin Fei, your family is safe here in 9 profound sect. As for Liu Bai, it's rumored that he was exterminated by a golden core true person. Liu Bai is dead, and the hidden sword sect is no more. The Great Chime dynasty has long been controlled by golden core true persons. The Empress, while still alive, is now controlled and manipulated by them. The royal family of Great Chan is essentially defunct. Only our 9 profound sect has been somewhat fortunate. But if you hadn't returned in time, we might have faced the same fate. Both Lin Fei and Shen Lianxin fell silent. Liu Bai was a close friend of theirs. The 3 of them were once known as the 3 martial saints of Great Shan. Lin Fei and Liu Bai shared a kindred spirit. Lin Fei was the saber saint, and Liu Bai was the sword saint. Unfortunately, the sword saint was now dead at the hands of a golden core cultivator. Moreover, the hidden sword sect, which Liu Bai had always protected, was eradicated. Perhaps if Liu Bai had joined us on our journey to explore the oceans, things might have turned out differently, murmured Shen Lianxin. Who killed Liu Bai? Who destroyed the hidden sword sect? Anyone in Great Chan who slaughters at will be executed. A chill flashed in Lin Fei's eyes, and a cold murderous aura emanated from him. Being recognized as the national guardian martial saint who protected Great Chan, he felt the responsibility that came with that title. After all, Great Chan was his homeland. He would not allow anyone to harm it. Elder Lin, how far have you progressed in your martial arts? The head of 9 profound sect asked cautiously, his eyes filled with a mix of curiosity and anticipation.